Hi, I'm Liz Seeley, founder of Starry Eyed Strategy, and I help you turn creativity into your greatest competitive advantage. After decades partnering with the world's best, biggest, and most beloved brands, I want to take you behind the scenes to see how the most creative leaders turn ideas into impact. Each episode features leaders from top CEOs and CMOs to founders and authors, revealing how they stay inspired to create brands that launch and last, and how you can do it too. You'll walk away with practical lessons and tools you can use, whether you're repositioning your brand, rallying your team, or planning your next big launch. So let's get started and stay starry-eyed. My guest today is Bonnie Wan. Bonnie is a global speaker, teacher, and best-selling author of The Life Brief. Right here. The Life Brief is a simple and profound action-driving practice that helps people navigate life's biggest, trickiest decisions with clarity, creativity, and courage. The Life Brief applies the art and science of brand strategy that I love so much to how we live our lives, helping people get clear, take meaningful action, and live with greater intention and imagination. Bonnie is Ad Age's 2022 Chief Strategy Officer of the Year, a 30-year brand strategy leader turned leadership and life strategist. She has led strategy for some of the most iconic and innovative companies in the world. She's also been named an advertising icon, one of 100 women to know in America, and an Eames Curious 100, which is a celebration of courageous leaders and creative minds across the U.S., harnessing the transformative power of curiosity. Today, she not only helps companies innovate from a place of purpose, but also guides everyday people who want to realize their potential, like you and me. She's taught the Life Brief at Accenture, Airbnb, Apple, Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, Change.org, Chief, Google, South by Southwest, and World 50 Group, as well as for Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop and Jane Goodall's Activating Hope Summit. Are you serious? She lives with her husband, 4 kids, her mom, and Charlie the dog in Portland. Bonnie, I'm so happy to know you, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to Stay Starry-Eyed.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me, Liz. I've been dying to do this.
Likewise, I'm so excited. Well, as we begin, I would love for you to speak directly to the brand leader listening and tell them a little bit about what you hope they would take away from our conversation today. We'll get into the Life Brief, which I know and love, but what's one thing that you hope those listening try or think differently about for their own brand and business?
The importance of what I call atomic clarity. And that is clarity that is distilled to the essence, right? That is the art and science of brand strategy, is distilling a brand, a company, and now what I do for people, a person, a situation, down to its essential truth,
Mm.
expressed in a way that is so fuck yes. We got to act on it. I have so many ideas to innovate on that. But to get that kind of clarity because it ripples across your organization.
Mm.
Or if we're talking about life strategy, it ripples across all the parts of your life.
Wow, that gives me chills to think about. Yeah, your family, your team, the elements, once you get clarity and how that can have greater impact.
Everywhere.
Wow. Well, I would love to hear some examples of that, especially. But to start, tell us a little bit about how you got into this brand building world. How did all this begin?
I just had an innate fascination with motivation, human behavior, anything psychological. And I think that started with childhood heroes, I guess. My first book report was on Helen Keller, Amelia Earhart, Martin Luther King. Those were second grade book reports. And I don't remember which one was first, but it just dropped me into a fascination of learning people's stories. And here's what's funny about that today. Today, I do a daily walk. It's my fitness routine. And I walk through one of Portland's oldest cemeteries. And every
Ooh.
time, I know that sounds creepy for everyone in the audience, perhaps, and we're in October, so it's apt. But it's the most beautiful space in a very urban environment. It's got every type of tree. It's got full of squirrels, birds. It's stunning and an eclectic mix of headstones from 1853, I think is the oldest one I've seen. But every day that I walk through it, I think about each person's story. And so I think that's my lifelong obsession is what makes people tick, what, um, what inspires them, what cripples them, how do they overcome? That's my story, how does everyone hit bottom and make their way back up, and some to the top?
Totally. The classic hero's journey.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
love it. Well, in those early book reports, what did you love about how maybe the conflicts that they overcame? What did you learn to apply later on?
I don't know that I've learned to apply it, certainly, but what the question that kept me curious all the time was, why would someone dare to risk their life for some kind of purpose that they were driving? Martin Luther King, he was knew that he was in danger. He sensed what was coming, yet he showed up every day and played out, I think that whether we wanna call it purpose, destiny, whatever he was called to. Amelia Earhart too was certainly, we all know the risks involved in that time. She was first, she was pioneering something that no one had ever done,
Yeah.
and it gave her goosebumps to do it. Helen Keller, slightly different, but born with so many things. I mean, just one of the setbacks that she was born with might cripple someone today, right? Oh,
Mhm. Totally.
any day, any era, but she had it stacked on stacked on stacked. Yet she became one of the most prolific writers and thinkers of her time.
Mm. That is wild. And sidebar, I don't really get creeped out at cemeteries. I'm like you. I love thinking about what was who was there before. I think two things. Well, my family's Scottish, and like we like to go back to all these Scottish, Irish places and look for our names and things. But also in the Latin culture, I like to think of myself as Latina, though I'm not. They celebrate that, and like revisit all of it and trace it back. It's so fun. I kind of wish that was a bigger deal, which we should make it.
Well, great, because now when you visit me in Portland, I know what we're gonna do.
Yes. We'll do your walk.
I'll show you my favorites.
Oh, I would love it. That's brilliant. Well, tell me a little bit about your favorites when it comes to the brands you've helped. I know you've helped,
Mhm.
some of the biggest brands clarify who they are. What inspired the switch from these brand briefs and, like you said, distilling it down to the essential and stripping away everything else? That's the hardest thing. What helped you to go from brand briefs for companies to the life brief for people?
Well, I still love working on brands.
Mm.
After 30 years, it's just become a bit of a obsession and an addiction. And while I loved getting to the brand truth of every company, because I believe in that so much at the conversation we talked about the power of atomic clarity. When companies are crystal clear about why they exist and their boldest ambition, they can carve a very short, sharp path to realize. And when leaders are all aligned on what that clarity is, so they share it across the board, that's when it exponentially happens and speeds up. I find one of the things that holds companies back is the silos and the different interpretations that different parts of the company have on why they exist and where they're going. It's so simple, and it is, but it's really hard in practice to get leaders aligned. I find a lot of leaders um, don't actually make space to have the conversations that matter. And what I've learned in leading something called Brand Camp, which was one of the things that I loved helping to build at Goodby Silverstein Partners when I left. Brand Camp was this invitation for all the leaders to actually dedicate space to have the conversations that matter and to author that clarity of direction together. Because what I've learned is when there's authorship, shared authorship, there's ownership. People take ownership and accountability for the things that they feel they've had a voice in. When there's alignment, there's action. When we are aligned, then the action actually ripples out faster exponentially. And so it was really critical to bring people together. But after the brand clarity was there, the brand truth, the brand essence, whatever you want to call it, right, is clear, then the question comes to for leaders, well, how do I show up? And how do I show up differently as a result of this new direction or this sharper direction that we're going to take? And that was one of the applications that really excited me when I had discovered the life brief in my personal life. I got really excited about how can this be applied professionally to help leaders and even all employees show up in sharper ways, being really clear about the shift that they need to make in order to meet and fulfill the organizational mission.
Was brilliant. I love to bringing it back to the people stories who you mentioned at the start of what would you, a lot of times when we're doing brand positioning, what would you die fighting for? What matters so much to you that can inspire the reason you exist, as you said, as a brand. And then more importantly, same thing, we like to say people support what they help create. So what does that mean for the ways that we move forward? How did you have this realization that those same principles could apply to people?
Well, I think I've talked about this in the book and also on a lot of stages is that the first discovery of the life brief came during a crisis of my personal life in my marriage. And I was stuck swirling the same story again and again, which is my marriage is broken. It's my husband's fault. I mean, the context is that I was exhausted, really. I had 3 out of my 4 kids at that time. They were all under the age of 5. I know you're in this, stew yourself right now, so my heart is with you, but I was really, losing it. I was a hot mess. I was the breadwinner, and I was also the head of housekeeping. I was also the head of nursing and diaper change and all the stuff, and it felt untenable, it felt unsustainable, and I thought it was because I had the wrong partner. And that was a really hard thing to look in the eye because the path that that was paving to was a terrifying one. Separation, divorce, what do we do with our family? What do we tell everyone? How are we gonna hold, the relationships? So out of maybe avoidance of that path and desperation for a new approach, I just went into my reflex as a strategist. And I started asking myself the questions, the penetrating questions that I ask company leaders, why they exist. What do they want? What do they see? What's the best case scenario that they can envision for their company? And for me, it was my life, my marriage, my family. And what was different than other times that I had done self reflection was that I gave myself utter permission to be nakedly honest. So I was not thinking about everybody in my mind. Women are really good at holding space for everybody's needs, everybody's wants, and theirs last. So this was not that kind of moment. This was me putting my wants first, knowing that later I would have to reconcile that with everybody else. But what came out really surprised me. One, I didn't want another car or a vacation home or time on a beach vacation. I wanted something deeply fundamental, which was time. Actually, even more time with my husband, more meaningful time. I wanted more present time with my kids. And dare I say, as a mom of 3 and now 4, I wanted time for myself. I wanted to have the spaciousness to rest, reflect, reset,
Go for
um,
walks.
go for walks in the cemetery. Exactly that. And and then when I could paint that picture of what I wanted in terms of time, I could
Mhm.
also immediately see all the ways I was wasting my time by being a people pleaser, by trying to be the hero at work, by trying to be in all the meetings, or, making sure I was seen at all the right moments, or saying yes by being the good community person, participating in the PTA or on the school board, doing all the things that I thought I should do, which left me no time or energy for the things I really wanted to invest in. And that aha led to my first life brief, which was all about taking our time. And that meant taking back our time, meaning making it intentional, making it thoughtful, under our control. And it also meant slow down. I was racing in, living in the future. When the kids are X, when I get the next promotion, when my husband gets the next film project. We're just always living and chasing something further out rather than really staying with what is here and now. And that was a radical shift once I got clear that that was my shift in how I wanted to show up differently. Everything else changed, just like I said at the top, that atomic clarity not only rippled through our marriage and saved it, but it rippled through what we chose for our life. And we ended up moving from San Francisco to Portland, Oregon, and ended up stepping back and becoming our lead parent. So the stay-at-home parent. I stepped back into a 4-day week, but I actually got so much more done. And I was the only remote hybrid worker. We didn't even have those names at that time for this kind of situation because this was 2010, a
Oh,
decade
wow.
before the pandemic. And I was the only employee working from a different city, but it made me more loyal, more invested, more engaged, but with shorter work hours. And that recreation, reimagination changed our relationships, changed how we showed up for each other, how we showed up for ourselves, how we showed up for our kids. And now I've seen this happen in the last 15 years. People applying the same principles and the practice, the method to all parts of life, whether it be a relationship, the relationship they have with money, the relationship they have with work, the relationship with parent or parenting, all sorts of ways, but the same idea. They really got dropped into and gave themselves naked permission to be honest about what they really wanted, and then noticed something about how they were living right now, or how they were working, or how they were operating right now that needed to shift. Got clear about what that shift was. And once they made it, so many other changes unfolded and nothing fell apart.
That's amazing. It's really amazing to me too that when you trust the process, as we do, especially in that creative, messy middle, to get to the other side, what I love about it is you break away from what you think, like you said, other people want, or what you think should be, to what could be. And you're painting the possibilities where you probably never thought you could extract yourself from the workplace, live where you want to work, when you want to work. That's amazing.
Oh, nobody around us models that for us, or very few
Mm.
people. I couldn't at that time have pointed to anyone who had decided to carve a different path. And it was scary because it's scary when no one around you is doing the same thing. You start to feel doubt. You start to feel nervous. Like, are we crazy? I mean, is this really going to pan out? And every time I've made a change or um, got clear in a brief, I always had this big moment of doubt when I started thinking, okay, now let's experiment. Now let's make it happen. And every time on the other side of it, there are surprising rewards that I could have never anticipated.
That you never would have seen either, but wouldn't have been revealed.
Yeah, they're firsts, right? And I know you talk to a lot of creative leaders. I think
Hmm.
that's what I love about people who practice creativity. And what I
Wow.
mean by practicing creativity is not doing art or copy or even molding anything or making anything. Creativity is a new way of seeing things. Any artist will tell you, you can't paint or draw something unless you can see it and see it differently than other people. That's what
Exactly.
distinguishes you, right? So seeing it differently and then the willingness to experiment and to do something that's true from inside out within you and to pursue what you know. And I put that in quotations, know, deep, not in your head and not in your mind. It's not a thinking thing. It's an intuitive, instinctual, gut level knowing that you follow. And that's what the practice of life briefing really helps bring it up. That's what I love about brand strategy. I work with leaders. I work with each of them. I ask them questions. I sit with them and I listen. And each one of them reveals insights and wisdom that they know about the business, but they've never shared with anybody else. It's just been inside them. And all we had to do was create space to give it room to come out and unlock it, and then put it in front of everyone. And everyone's like, whoa, game change. But we're moving so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Business, right? Where everything's urgent, everything's on fire. Oh my God, oh my God. That we're actually holding back and suppressing the game changing insights that can help
Exactly.
leapfrog everyone else in our category.
Totally. That's the case for probably 90% of brands out there where they're just, we used to call it at Yum Brands where I was for a bit, the shark that's closest to your body. You're just trying to get through the day versus if you would take just a minute to assess the situation, what the brand's about, where is worth spending your time, what to never do again. Same thing with people. If we just assess for a second, and I love how you break it down, the same simple principles where you think about what matters most, and then let that be your guide. I think it's just brilliant too. And that's kind of the point of staying starry-eyed. How do you leverage that creativity and use it to just propel you forward?
I love the shark analogy.
Just surviving, not thriving.
Feel it. Just yeah, I can feel it. It's terrifying.
When you going back to that first life brief, I know you brought your husband in on it and probably co-authored that because you got to co-author it. How did he react? And then how soon after did you take action? Did you know what some of those steps were to take to align better?
Well, we were really feeling in the dark, right? Because we had never done that before. I wrote the brief. I joke, I vomited it out. It was just stirring, stirring, stirring inside me. And then it came out loose on paper, really messy. And then I got the aha and I just sharpened it. And I was afraid to share it with him, but I shared it with him immediately. I was afraid not to share it with him, but I was afraid of his reaction. I didn't
Sure.
want him to deny it, reject it, or say, what the heck is this? But instead, he texted back YES, all caps, triple exclamation. And that alone, that little text gave me courage. It gave me hope. I was like, oh, he's on board. Now let's talk about it. And then we kind of got on the phone and nervously, excitedly unpacked what it meant.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just the language, take our time. It was five, I call it declarations, which really in the brand world, if you understand, they became those five declarations were our manifesto, right? Take our time was just the sharp, sticky, memorable handle or name or tagline, if you want, that could stick in our head, even though I can't recite back all the five. It just pulled all the meaning into that one phrase.
I love it.
And then that was it. That was it. We had a great conversation. We didn't talk about it much the next morning. We didn't talk about it at all. But it already organically started to permeate how each of us looked at the world. And I started researching schools and where else could we live, and how could I relook at my time at work? And he started on his own path, and we weren't talking about it, but we were both in exploration mode. And that was in April or March. And by August, we had moved our family and to Portland, Oregon. We found the key ingredients of our brief. And by
Mhm.
September, we were full on in it.
That's amazing. And you knew what you needed to do. And then how soon after was that fourth baby?
3 years.
It's amazing. They say studies show that the stress levels are highest when you have three, but after four, it's home free. They
Yes, I
decline.
also hear the studies say alcoholism also goes up.
That's true too. That's true too. Uh, but that's a brilliant way to realign so that you can do what you want to do, and that's part of the beauty, yeah, of being, I think, working parents too. Of yeah, who's going to do what, and how do we approach this, knowing what our priorities are now.
Yes, yes. I think one of the greatest gifts of clarity, and you hinted at it, you probably even said it a few minutes ago, it's radical prioritization. Once you know what matters and where you want to go, you start to see signal from noise in minutes.
You're exactly right. Yeah, and that's where you said your knowing it just is so much more pronounced because you're better in tune with what matters most.
Yeah.
I know a lot of, especially moms lately, who are in this transition period, whether it's we're done having babies or kids are leaving or something of what is next and what do I do? I think I had that same transition where I had my fifth baby, and
Wow.
that's when I decided to quit my job and start my own company. And I think, yeah, had I had the life brief, I would have done it a lot sooner. I would have taken action
But
before.
you
And
can
now
do
I'm
it
going through this
in
and loving
just
it.
the right time. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
5 babies. I get to be
Uh,
an Aura.
Well, likewise, likewise. I'm so excited for you. And again, you just yeah, pick up, envision the possibilities, and now you're painting the possibilities for other people to realign as well. I love the fact that too that you've shared with this with individuals. One of my favorite friends is, like I said, your biggest fan with Alicia and just sharing the books with everyone. I also love the fact that you've applied this to groups. So you've shared this with leaders at Apple and Google and LinkedIn. Which themes show up no matter who you're with? What are some of the key elements that people have shared with you? And are there any memorable, especially memorable success stories of people who've been able to do what you do once they follow the practice and implement some of those action items that they've aligned with?
Yes, the universal theme, whether I'm working with someone in a professional context or a personal context, is that there's always a story that is stuck,
Mm.
lodged in their minds or their heart, whatever you want to call it, um, that is holding them back. And it's similar to the story I had about my marriage. My marriage is broken.
Mm.
It's my husband's fault. That was one that took zero accountability. Now I hear
Mm.
all kinds of these limiting stories, but what is fascinating, I think we all know this idea of limiting beliefs, limiting stories. But I have found time and time again that when you change your story, when you can reauthor it, you actually change your life. And so, one of the critical exercises that I do in the book, but more importantly in the groups I work with, is name the story. Name the story that is holding you back. And that might be holding you back by making you play safe or making you shrink and be smaller than what you know you can be. Or it might keep you from speaking up or throwing out your biggest, boldest ideas. I don't know what it is. But if we can name it, now you can reauthor it. So reframe
Mm.
is the exercise that strategists love most.
Mhm.
The business that we're in? How do we reframe the problem? How do we reframe the story that is lodged in our heads that's holding us back? It's my favorite exercise every time when I teach a retreat, when I go into a team, when I do one on one work. It's amazing the stories that come up. I had a CEO who had an epiphany the moment Like, we had done a few brain dumps, we'd gone a few weeks at it, and all of a sudden they said, "Oh my god, I was the number 2 child." And I realized I show up like a number 2 in all the parts of my life. And as soon as they had that realization, they were able to see, okay, how does a number 2 show up? Let me write down the words, decisions, actions, the behaviors. Now, how does a number 1 show up? Words, decisions, behaviors. And she could literally draw arrows, right? And now you know, okay, there's the shift before any negotiation, before board meeting, before any one-on-one conversation. I'm going to step into number 1.
Yes.
And so
Spectacular.
it can be really immediate as soon as that aha hit, but seeing that through the stories that we tell ourselves, and oftentimes we're not seeing those stories. Another limiting belief, it's in my book, but it was a leader, a pioneer of just a champion of women and empowerment in the creative industries, and she was in a really toxic marriage,
Mm.
and that was really hard. So this is a personal story, and the thing holding her back was she saw divorce as a failure, and so she just held herself and held her breath in this relationship, and she had tried everything. In fact, she wrote a first brief that was about being her, partner's number 1 fan. She was gonna just show up even harder, even more positive, even better, right? And that was not working. So we worked on a new iteration, and she realized the thing that was holding her back was the fact that she saw divorce was a failure and so her identity. And then when she reframed it. So the reframing exercise is you write a few times, 1, 2, or 3 times, and I say write as many as you can. It's
Mhm.
not X, it's Y, right? So X and Y are the components. So divorce is not an ending, it's a new beginning of life on my terms.
That's huge.
Right, and then you just write as many as you can, and
Mm.
suddenly you see people just light up because they're now seeing all the new possible stories
Mm.
could replace the one that they had been holding.
Totally. That's a wonderful example. When the iteration happens, I'm sure too you could see the transformation as they whittle it down, and I love the idea of just like you said, stepping away for a bit to focus on this and then get to, yeah, reframing what you think is the truth to again painting the possibility of what it could be. It's awesome. Have you seen anyone employing AI with this? Like that could do 10 iterations.
Oh, yeah.
Has it expedited the life brief process?
I think it has the potential to. That's actually, one of your questions for me is what's next, and that's
Yes.
what I'm really excited to do because the book was an amazing way to document it all and the wonderful solo experience in the safety of your own space at your own pace, but it's not dynamic. So I think AI has a wonderful opportunity to help, and that's what I'm excited about building next is a dynamic experience.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of guardrails that need to be built into that. Of course, the privacy and security and safety and confidentiality, right? That's of utmost importance. And
Mhm.
then it's really about how do we create an experience where AI isn't giving you the answers, but it's
Mm.
always inspiring and prompting you with ideas.
I love that. Well, and that is one of the questions that I asked. Life Brief has done so much now, from talk to workshop to your speaking appearances and more workshops, so that you can train whole teams. When did you realize how big it could be? and where would you like to take it next, especially in the context of AI expediting things and just helping you think through what to do?
Well, it's been a long road, 15 years
Yeah.
since I wrote that first life brief, and I think there's been many chapters in this journey and several where I thought, "Okay, that was done." But what I found with, creativity, being in the world of creativity, a good idea has a life of its own. So I see this idea as necessarily mine. I'm the curator for it. I'm the, it calls to me and it shows up. So there's been times where there's been a dead space, maybe a year or a year and a half where I'm just focused on my job. I was leading the agency, leading strategy, and I thought, okay, well, that was a wonderful ride. And every time I thought that it's over, a new door showed up and unlocked itself, and that was very much this. What happened when I got invited to share it at Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, and that was a
Wait,
se
how did that happen? Paint the picture. Where were you in the process? And you were still maybe sharing it at work, sharing it at your agency. Paint the picture of that particular chapter, because I think you're exactly right. An idea can just live on.
oh,
And
and I'll slap you in the face again, when it gets through life. It's so interesting. There was a moment where I had been giving talks, Accenture, so in the agency, then in the industry, then companies like Accenture, and I was doing it as my gift work, my service work, and I had produced a little tiny workbook that it was just meant to be in the goodie bags at conferences, and then people asked me, "Can I have more? Can I have more?" So the agency produced a whole bunch more, and then I paid for them to be printed, and then I sold them for 3 workbooks, for in a pack, and it was like Amazon fulfillment in my walk-in closet. I would just
what?
wrap up these books and mail them out, and that went on for a while, and then it kind of slowed down, and I thought, "Wow, what a great ride." That was really interesting. Maybe it's time to move on because I hadn't nothing had happened. And then a friend who worked at Goop, whose sister knew me, through the agency world, said, "Hey, Goop is coming to San Francisco. We would love for you to teach the life brief there." And I thought, "What? Okay." I mean, that was a
Mhm.
full body yes.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, I also got introduced to my agent. Someone with us at breakfast. We went out to breakfast, and at the end of breakfast, I showed her those little workbooks, and she said, "Okay, let's do this." And I said, "Do what?" She said, "We're gonna write the book." And I immediately had my own limiting stories come up.
Mhm.
Immediately, and they tumbled out of my mouth. I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm a strategist. I distill everything into one word,
Yeah.
one sentence on one page. I'm not a writer." And she said, "That's okay." I said, "We're talking about a book, right?" And she said, "No, no, no. I'm
All these
not looking."
pages.
Yes, there's a lot of. And she said, "No, I'm looking for people who have unique things to say.
Yeah.
We will give you the scaffolding to figure out how to find your voice and how to write the book." And I said, "I don't have time. It's I have 4 kids. I have a big job, and in the client service world, it's always on." And she said, "That's okay. It'll take as long as you need." And so she immediately removed my first 2 excuses, and then I thought, "Okay, well, here's the next invitation."
Mhm. That's amazing.
So every time an invitation shows up, I've said yes. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much how this journey has gone.
Luckily, it fit with the life brief, all of those
Yes.
options. I love it. And how long did, I know this is a dream of a lot of brand leaders, that they do have something unique to say and share with the world. It is something that people would like to do. How long did it take to write the book, going from being able to distill down to then explaining the whole process beyond the workbook?
I have met so many authors, on this journey now, so it's been
Mhm.
5 years since that moment of, meeting my agent, and everyone has a different timeline. I've seen people who've written their books in 6 weeks. For me, it took 3 years.
Wow. Okay. Especially multitasking as a mom.
Yes, it was every Friday night during the pandemic and every Sunday
Yes.
morning, hot beverage in my pajamas, all that stuff. And I think for anyone who has a dream of writing your book, write it your way. Find your way to write it. I had to skip mine first because I'm an orator, and then I had to transcribe it, lay it down, and then edit it. And I had so much fun editing. And some people are just blank canvas people. They just write. So it's really about it's much like the life brief. Find your truth and your path to writing, but be very clear. And this is only for nonfiction books. This is not for fiction. That's a whole different animal. But for nonfiction, know why this, why now, and why you.
Mm,
And that's just like a brief, right? You have to know
yes.
the bones of it. Why does this thing matter? And why is it critical right now? And why are you the only voice that can give voice to it in this way?
Hmm. I love it because then it doubles down on your unique perspective and then kind of the place it might hold in culture, not to
That's
mention who it's for.
that's right.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you, authors are kind of my celebrities. You and Jim Collins, I once walked in when I was a young strategist. He officed in the same place, the Good to Great author. And I was like, oh, hello. Like celebrities, and like, nah.
Yes,
People who can write things down and share that with the world, that's much more impressive.
he's up there. I mean, one of the most read authors in business.
You too. Super dreamy. Super dreamy. Well, I would be remiss, yes, if I didn't talk a little bit more about those 4 kids because I'm so fascinated by this. Like you said, you've got a big job. You got 4 kids. You have and now, well, not to mention, you and your husband, just rekindling, and now you're with your mom, which sounds also dreamy because I like to say home is where your mom is, and I want to live with my mom, both my parents. Tell me how you've raised kids while building this brand of your own like I said, bringing it and sharing it to the world. How have you balanced leading a big agency or leading this company and all of your consulting with leading a family?
I have to first give credit to my husband. When he made the choice to step back and be the lead parent and the anchor to our family, that was the greatest gift that liberated me to go out and do the work that I to do. There's no way I could have done any of that without him taking the courageous, step of, and it's hard for a guy,
Yes.
and I love the modern times that we're in because we're seeing so many modern men step up to the plate as a caregiver. And he didn't, men aren't trained or conditioned, although I can now say differently of my son who has been raised by his dad in a beautiful, um, full spectrum way, right? He has this incredible model for what a modern man and a wholehearted man looks like. And then it's this practice. It's getting really razor sharp clear about what it makes it far easier to say no to things and to see the noise, all the distractions. I think it made me a better strategist because writing the book also helped me see the craft, the art and science of strategy and have to explain it. So anytime you have to teach something, you become better at it. You sharper, um, deliverer or expert at it. And then I could see its application in everything, right? Getting clear about every decision from what are we going to do this weekend to what's the next move in this business or, what's the next big revolution that's coming. You start to see everything through this lens, and that's really powerful. And then I write a brief for almost every part of my life. So
Hmm. Yeah. How many briefs do you have, and how many do you advise to do separate,
I have
distinctive?
so many, but the last one I wrote was over the holidays. of 2024, knowing my mom was going to move in with us. So it sounds warm and fuzzy, but my mom has dementia.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
no, that's it's a state of life, and now I see it everywhere, right?
Mm,
So
yes.
many people going through this, and I feel fortunate that we have the space and we have the time to caregive for her. I'm terrified. My husband was in shock. We had just moved back from the Bay Area to Portland, Oregon, and I had just taken the leap from career to vocation, super excited and confident. And then all of a sudden I found out, oh no, my mom can't live alone anymore. And my brother is already caring for his mother-in-law. So I always knew this was, being Chinese, this was never a question. But it came on so suddenly that I was shaken. Everyone was shaken, and I don't know about you, but I've gotten into many chapters of my life where I just a lot of friction with my mom, how she saw things, how she saw my child rearing, how she saw my, cleaning. I just
Yes.
thought, God, I can't take this on. This is going to, crush me.
Totally.
And dementia. Oh my God, I don't know anything about dementia. How am I
Mm,
going to do this? So I had to do the process. I had to sit and over the Christmas holidays, I just sat and it stirred and stirred. How do I want this experience to be between us? Can I imagine it to be a beautiful experience? What would the case scenario look like? And it was really hard because I was so stuck in fear.
yes.
But my daughter had brought home a long time ago a documentary and made us all watch it. It was called
Mm,
Alive Inside, and it's about the power of music with memory. And
mm,
someone is very old because she had the headsets with the iPods, and they would go into nursing homes, and some of these people were almost catatonic in their dementia, but if you put the headphones on and heard the music, they just jumped up and started talking and dancing and remembering things because the parts of our memory that holds music are some of the last parts to disappear.
wow.
About the power of music. So that became my inspiration when I remember that. Oh, I'm going to dance with
Mm,
Cha. And what that meant to me was not only the musical part, but the fact that I'm going to have to show up really flexible,
yeah.
not in the control perfectionist type A state that I like to run things in the other parts of my life and my work. But I'm going to have to now practice the muscles for adaptability, flexibility, because with dementia, every morning is different. I
Yes.
don't know who's going to walk out of my mom's room. I'm not going to know how foggy she is or what she is. And it's different every day. And that line alone, and there were lots of things underneath it, my manifesto, but that line alone, when I get frustrated or I'm exhausted and mm, that phrase just reminds me to let go a little bit,
Mm.
just relax into it. What
And
will
I can
be,
imagine, yes, I can imagine that gets you through. And also, what a gift to just experience that with her instead of fighting it all the way. I love how you just envision the best case and then figure out what that means for your day to day.
yeah.
That's amazing. I could talk to you all day. I'm going to switch into a little starry sparks and ask you a couple lightning round questions because I would love to know. Your book is my new favorite, but what book, podcast, or person's inspiring you right now? Where are you looking to for inspiration lately?
There's so many. Okay, this might be a boring one, but there's a book called Wanting, and it gets to the fascination. I think brand people will really like it. It's breaks down desire and talks about
Mm,
the two types of desire. There's mimetic desire, which is outside in, and of course, in advertising marketing, that's what we really play to, right? How do we create models that people want to aspire to? But then there's intrinsic desire. And that's the thing that's unique to you, distinct, regardless of what's outside and happening. And that's what the life brief really aims to unlock is get
Mm,
people to focus on, ooh, what's inside me rather than being inundated by all these other models telling me what I should do to be happy, what success looks like, or what it means to be on the right side of this issue,
mm.
but to go inside and unlock the knowing.
I love it. All right, we'll have to put your book and that one in the show notes. What word describes how you want to lead in the next year, especially as you're leading more of these work sessions or one-on-one consulting, guiding
Op-
people?
Open. It's my favorite.
Open.
It's my favorite state of being.
Open
Open.
for possibilities. Speaking of
Yeah.
open, what's one thing you'd like to try? A new thing you'd like to try next?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Nordic skiing.
Ooh,
I
love.
that just I moved to Portland and now we're kind of really close to snow. I'm not a skier or snowboarder, but I would love, something uh challenging physically but slower.
Yes, I love that. Well, I would meet you in Whistler, Banff, anytime. I've never skied in Oregon. I'll be up for any of that. What's your go-to or like walk-on or pump-up song? What plays either as you are getting ready to do something big, or maybe as you are walking onto one of those stages where you do your speaking appearances?
I don't think I have a walk-up song, but there is a band, and this is from the 80s, 90s. It's called Massive Attack.
Oh,
And I play, there's 2 albums, one that is Massive Attack, and then the one no, actually, there's 2, Protection and Blue Lines. I will play that on rotation. That's very obscure for people.
I've
It's
never heard of those, and I will play them right after this.
great.
Maybe that can be our going out song for the pod. And what is your Bonnie? What is your favorite cocktail or mocktail?
Oh my gosh, the Negroni.
Oh, it's so good.
It comes
Have
in
you?
so many different variety.
I was just going to ask your thoughts on the tequila Negroni.
Oh, well, I've had oh my gosh, I'm losing my words. I have not had a tequila Negroni because 'cause I'm
Mhm.
partial to gin, and I also like the phony Negroni because my husband doesn't drink, he's dry, so I get to do it either way, but I'm gonna have to try the tequila one. I can't remember the one I did try. It was too smoky for me. The mezcal.
Oh,
Mezcal.
no mezcal Negronis for me either. I do like a tequila. I will also see your phony Negroni and raise you Strong Waters Aperitif, which is
Oh,
another mocktail out of Denver, Colorado. I'll send it to you where it's like a Negroni, only lighter, maybe better. And then you can add gin to it as well.
okay. I'll
Okay,
take it. Mhm.
perfect. With all that we've talked about in mind, what is an action or just step that you'd encourage brand leaders to take after listening to today? In addition to buying their life brief, because then they can put it into practice for themselves, what else would you encourage them to do?
This is gonna sound not like an action, but I think it is the start, the building block to clarity, which is find your quiet. Create space for your knowing and your answers to find you. We don't have to think harder or go bigger or work longer to get to the answers that are game changing. They're already inside us, but we don't create the space to hear them, for them to bubble up. And that's the practice I think more leaders need in their daily lives. And then to write down the wisdoms, the answers, the ingredients that come up, because that's going to sharpen your leadership.
And that's aligns really nicely with another question that I had for you. What will separate brand leaders who are aligned with what matters most to them from those who will fall behind?
It's exactly that. Brand leaders that lead from knowledge, data, thinking are going to have a tougher time. than brand leaders who can drop into their inner compass and have immediate access to and relationship to their knowing, their wisdom, their intuition. It's if we're going to talk scientifically, it's your theta brainwaves rather
Mhm.
than your beta brainwaves. And people can write it off in business as, oh, theta, that's for yogis, that's for monks. It's actually a critical tool for the Navy SEALs. Because when you are in high stakes life or death situations, your beta thinking, hardwired, multitasking brain is not going to get you. Underwater, it's going to be the thing that drives you into panic and then death. When you're in your theta waves, you're centered. And then you're able to see creative possibilities that others can't because the theta brainwaves help us access our intuition and our creativity. So when we get quiet, that's what we access. Yet we're in an always on, distracting, and noisy world. And we keep ourselves busy and busier, and we're addicted to efficiency and productivity. But that's not how we change the game.
That's right. And what a force when you do have both. What as we close, what do you do, Bonnie, to stay starry-eyed or creative or to create that space in your day to day? Other than your walks through the cemetery, which sound amazing, is there anything else that we should take to heart and start to do?
Yeah, I do one thing a day that I call it chase my goosebumps. Just one thing for the pure pleasure of it.
Like what?
Oh my gosh, it could be anything. Um, let's see, what did I went Oh, I've been fascinated with, thermal springs. That's water is
Mhm.
where I get everything. So I spend as much time in warm water as possible, and there's this new place called Cascada in Portland. Everyone needs to come. It's a thermal springs hotel. It's gorgeous, and you get 3-hour passes at a time, and you're in this succulent world that you can't help but access that knowing.
Oh, that sounds amazing. All right, I'll meet you for that as well. And then lastly, who is a creative leader?
Rima Basurnitsin. She's the founder of a company called Dialogue, where she brings together people from all sides and dimensions of a pressing issue and holds them in dialogue so that you can get all sides of a problem in order to arrive at a solution. She's fascinating.
Wow. How rare these days. I would love to see that. And then you can actually get the balanced view to decide what to do.
Yeah.
With all that you've done with the life brief, tell us a little bit more in addition to our AI prompts, where it will go next. What is on the horizon for where you will be with it?
Well, we're kicking off 2026 with a virtual retreat, 4 classes online, 2 hours on a Friday afternoon. It's the best way to kick off the year, to kick it off with that atomic clarity. And it's wonderful to life brief solo and alone in your own space and pace, but it is magic to life brief in community.
I love that. And I think that would expedite things as well. Not only expedite things for individuals, but be more of a bonding experience so you can support each other through. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And then also in 2026, the life brief is coming to companies. So my dream is that the life brief or the work brief will replace the performance review. I think it is the clarity at every layer of a company from leaders on down really is the motor that fuels. It's the rocket fuel for a company to accelerate where it's going.
I love that. I can also see people being certified life brief facilitators for you. I can see,
Yeah.
people taking this book and doing it with their own teams. I just think the possibilities are endless for you.
You're naming all the things.
Yes. Building out the ecosystem. I
Yeah.
love it.
Thank,
Well, thanks so much. Thanks for all you do.
thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Stay Starry Eyed podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, strategies, and tools you can use to move your brand and business forward. If you enjoyed this episode, here's how you can help share it with your fellow brand leaders who need it most. Hit follow, share it with a friend, and please leave us 5 stars or a quick review. You know we love all the stars. You can also find show notes, resources, and additional inspiration at starryeyedstrategy.com. Until next time, stay starry-eyed.